Okay, thank you, David, go right ahead. All right, the treasurer's report, you're up, Jack.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody, again. I have the reports for the month of August 31st. The month end just recently. And I have a balance sheet and a profit and loss, revenue and expense report. The balance sheet, Rob and the auditors decided that we should put the loan, as earlier discussed, as a separate balance sheet. So in the future, the loan is on page 2 now, basically. Because they think that the loan should not be part of the operating main fund, it should be separate. But it doesn't change any of the specifics. It's the loan balance now is $321,000, and the land value including fees is $675. So then the difference is just the equity. And as of early September, after the September payment, the balance is actually, as of today, $314,655. But basically, there was one change that they did recently. That'll be a separate item from now on, the loan. Eventually, they want to put the loan and the GASB 45 estimate under a separate group called long-term debt group. That'll be separate from the regular operating balance sheet. So it doesn't really change anything. It's just moving it to a different spot, more or less.
What was the ASB 45?
The SB 45, that report that we had done for the future estimated cost of health insurance,
Oh, okay.
that'll be on as part of the long-term debt group. And
Makes
also they're gonna
sense.
put on, when they can calculate the compensated balances of basically how much would our liability be if everybody was paid their accrued sick time, vacation, personal time, et cetera. So-
Didn't this statement have to be known as unfunded liabilities?
Yes, and the,
And that
what's it
should be
called?
listed as
Yes, before.
unfunded liabilities rather than long-term debt group.
Rob just gave me that description that we might be calling it long-term debt group. It is kind of like a long-term,
But yeah, the
Unfunded
loan
liabilities
is
would be
long-term debt, but unfunded liabilities is, Frank is right about that. Cause
Right.
that isn't a debt, we don't, well, we do kind of owe
Yeah, we do that.
it. We
We're
do owe it,
responsible for it.
we are responsible for it, it's not money we
be.
borrowed,
can be
but it is money we do owe,
and it's like
eventually.
the compensated
Yeah.
absences, everybody's vacationing.
That's right,
Right,
it's on the book.
similar.
Yeah, I guess I can see the logic of that.
Everybody who's eligible for our pension plan could die and then we have no liability.
Yes, but
Ability.
they might not.
I know.
Orange County Trust could go under, and then what happens to our loan, I don't know.
Then we don't have to pay our
There you
loan.
go, see, and then it all goes, whatever, go ahead. I think the fumes downstairs got to us, that's it.
If you,
I don't know if we could budget for all that happening,
Yeah,
but.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, just to show, that's why the
That's why it's just
face of
separate.
it's changed a little bit, more or less, but it's still the same. You can see on the front page, we have the 105,000 in the checking, 75,000 in the Orange County Trust. The 105 includes the check for 75,000 that we got, the TAN. And you can see in the liability section, we have the TAN anticipation note payable on the bottom, so that's, the liability to that. So in 2 weeks, 2 to 2.5 weeks, we'll be getting our first full tax revenue check, the 50% of the full tax amount minus the 75,000. So at the end of September, we'll be getting a large amount of money. I guess the board has to decide where they wanna put it. I would presume that we'd wanna put it wherever we could earn the highest rate, whatever that might be now. It's
11%.
something, right, percent. The expense report, this one has 2 months on it. Last month we only had 1. This one, since we're in month 2, we have 2. And so far, we're trending where we need to be under budget and where we need to be on budget. The library charges look a little low because at the end of, I was on vacation at the end of August, so there was a deposit that was made, I think on September 2nd for like $500 that really belonged to August. So library charges so far are holding up where we had hoped they would be, about $2,000 a month. The salaries are $1,837 under budget. And that's after 4 pay periods. I think we've had 2 in July and 2 in August, so we're almost 2,000 under budget on the salary, 1/6 the way through the year, so that's holding up well as well. The books, some books are entered, I think through like the 3rd week in July, so I managed to get some in for this report, so you weren't staring at a bunch of zeros under book expense, but I'll probably be working to catch up on that. But Matt and I were discussing earlier that the books might be a little light now, because in the last couple of weeks with everything that's been going on, I don't know that they've done much ordering.
Right.
So there probably won't be a heck of a lot coming in. So once we get caught up on putting them in the system, we'll probably be, for late August, September, dramatically under budget, even when they're entered in. But they still have to be caught up a little bit. But I think that couple week of not ordering will make sure that those lines are in order and not over. On page 2, the only thing that really stood out here, well, I think at the last meeting we mentioned that Ken's programs, he had a lot of activities in July and August, so that's over slightly year to date. And then on other expenses, professional fees is over pretty high, because we had that $3,000 charge for the Harbridge Consulting, which was that Gatsby 45 that we were just discussing. Their fee was paid in July, so that's why the professional fees are dramatically over. Because it was that one unforeseen expense, $3,000. And that's about it. Nothing else really stands out dramatically. More or less, we're heading out so far pretty much on target, but for the whole year, it's going to be difficult to stay, perfect for the year, with some of the lines being really, cut to the bone as far as keeping them in line. But we'll try and keep a close on it to see where it goes. But the last couple weeks, needless to say, have been a little hectic between the weather and being closed and everything like that. And I was out for a couple of days, so we just wanted to at least have a report that reflects reality as good as it can and up to date as much as possible.
Good, Keith, you have a question?
I have a question. Looking at the electronic resources and the computer hardware being over by close to $3,000, what was purchased or service, or I assume it was physical?
Yeah, I think we had some computers from,
We had a number of, David put through a whole bunch, but that was supposed to be on last year's also. I have to take a look at this. We did some warranty renewals on a bunch
Right.
of machines, so that may have to be adjusted.
Hmm.
Because there's been nothing, no activity there for at least a month and a half, so I'm gonna have to look at that.
That was just in July.
Yeah, this we're talking was late June, and I'm wondering if maybe,
it could be a timing issue. Maybe it was entered as July with the July credit card statement, but if the invoice was actually from June, then we would change it to June. It would be in there in July, in June of 2011. So I'll look into that. I'm glad you pointed that
You
out.
think it's a service contract cost?
Didn't we
if
replace
it
the
w-
computer in June?
we did two, but that was in a different, that was the local history.
I don't think
There was a bunch of them. It was like 5 or 6 at one shot
Yeah.
that were coming due. But we'll look into it.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. We'll check that out.
so. Yes, Frank.
Jack, in the last 2 months, at least in the director's report, we've had 4 employees leave, and possibly a 5th. And there's been absolutely no change or reduction in employment costs. In fact, they've been sitting solid as a rock.
On salaries or?
Yes, and all the employment costs.
Well,
And
the
that doesn't make any sense if we've had 4 outright employees leave, and maybe the 5th.
No, they were all replaced, but they were all they were frontline people, desk people, so they were replaced by substitutes while we're looking for part-time replacement people. So those hours were not vacated. It wasn't like there were empty desks out there.
So
Someone
it was
goes out and somebody else gets called in, a sub gets called in while they're,
So the same number of hours, but
the same number of hours would be paid out.
just a fewer employees.
Can we expect with this Irene thing, can we expect lower employment costs? Can
Probably
we
not.
get fewer
Well, the,
part-timers since we're moving everybody upstairs. So there's no places to put these people.
the
Why are we
first payroll in
paying?
September was below budget too.
Okay.
By about 800, 900, I can't recall exactly, but it was dramatic. Remember, Vern,
Yeah.
when we looked at it, it was, so the trend is continuing. The first one in September was below too.
And many of Michelle's people still are working. They've just been relocated upstairs on the balcony, you call it what you will. And they're still doing their normal tasks of preparing for the upcoming fall programming. They're just going to have to probably do it down the street at 223 Main Street. We can work something out with them. There may even be a little blip because Danny obviously has gone over, but that we are keeping a separate record of for the insurance company. They said to make sure that you calculate any costs having to do with overtime or with utilizing another space. So we'll keep track of all that.
I mean, I'm not 100% happy with that answer, but I'll take it.
That's the best I can give you. I think that's not.
The other question that I had is there, all of a sudden, we're getting our financial numbers effective to the 11th of the month,
That's,
and why can't we have them,
that's the year.
That's
oh,
it.
it's June, okay.
Yeah, it's a year.
July 11,
That's
August
the
11.
Shut up. Shut up,
And
friend.
next year it'll be the 12th.
Yeah,
Right.
with the 12th of
Thank
the
you,
month.
the 12th
Yes,
of the month,
Keith.
okay.
Alright, I'm
We're
sorry.
in cutoff periods.
Keith has a question for you.
Well, it's
Oh,
not a
sure.
question, it's,
I found it.
it's comment, yes.
Ah.
I'm thinking you're saying the $31,2795 is the cost to renew service contracts for some of the machines, some of the personal computers. We used to do that. I'm in the business. We used to do that. We used to spend $10,000-$20,000 a year to, we'd purchase with 3 years of next business day on site. After 3 years, we'd extend it until we felt the hardware wasn't sufficient. We'd extend it with maintenance, for $100, $150 for each machine. And then we got to the point where, we're spending $10,000-$20,000. We're talking, yes, hundreds of machines, but we usually never have but one or two require hardware maintenance. So we stopped doing that. And we use that money.
Yeah,
You
And we're
saw-
talking $10,000 to $20,000, and here we could be talking $3,100 to actually purchase new machines. Because more than likely you'll continue going with the machines, they won't break down, and when you're ready because of the operating system requiring a faster machine, more memory, faster hard drive or whatever processor, you could just purchase a new one. Instead of putting that money towards something you're probably not going to use, and even if you had to, you'd have the funds set aside to purchase a new machine. Because you're not purchasing new monitors, flat panel monitors, they're lasting a pretty long time. You're just getting a new, the
CPUs,
CPU.
And they're going lower and lower.
Yeah,
New one costs
you
as
can
much
get it
as
for
the
like
service
400,
contract did on the
500,
old
and
one.
Yeah, yeah.
for that cost there, it's what you have
So basically, you
6 to 8.
self-insure.
Right. So what you're saying
Well, you
is
make
we
fair
just-
assumptions. You might have one of the wings. You might have a spare on the wings, which would be maybe the last one you retired, and then you purchase with that money, when you really need to. Just a thought. That was
Well,
the
good thought.
Talk
Thank
to
you.
them about it. Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's a great idea. Okay, so any other questions for Jack? Can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Indeed.
Look at the hands flying up. Keith and
How can we
Frank.
argue with these numbers?
I know, how can you? Keith and Frank, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, Carol. Thank you very
Okay, great.
much, Jack.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday to your wife.
Oh, thank
it's
you.
your
Yeah.
birthday.
Tomorrow,
Happy-
yeah.
Oh,
Happy
wow.
birthday.
Huh?
Oh, you dropped something, Jack.
Thank you.
I don't know how
Good
important that
paycheck.
is.
Yeah. It's too late, see that?
So yeah, I'll move over and you can move over.
Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
You basically got a tour of what my last few weeks here.
So wait a second. We have the committee reports here first
Oh,
before
I'm
you.
sorry, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
So you
You're
feel
anxious
that-
to get going, I know.
It overlaps because there's plumbing issues.
right.
Yeah, it does
Mm.
overlap. Yeah, do you wanna, well, let's do the HRC for the moment. The Human Resources Committee,
Okay.
committee reports. So we met, the three of us.
But are we gonna do an executive session?
Well,
We'll discuss the,
what we
Well-
decide, and then an executive will have the,
right, cause we're also doing that with the plumbing, we just kinda have to,
we'll just say the tier, we won't mention money.
okay?
Which public knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be to a point.
I don't know, it seems to me we should be presenting a report, it's a personnel report, it's an evaluation of someone, an executive session to the board, and then come out of executive session and make a recommendation for some sort of action regarding salary.
It's up to you.
Well,
Did you bring my notes that you went over with?
no, I didn't actually,
Oh.
because I already went over it with him.
I think the
And-
bylaws might actually say to the effect of HR matters or for executive session.
Okay, well then we'll just move that to the executive session later. The plumbing issues that we discussed before, you brought things up in an email. I just wanted you
I
to
did.
discuss it now because the public didn't get any of those emails.
Okay, for the public's knowledge,
Right.
we had backflow.
Mhm.
We had severe cases, twice, of backflow.
Mhm.
And they make a valve for this, and it's quite commonly done. And it's that kind of scary. If the potential exists where you live, if you don't have one, you know, what could happen? And we experienced some of it. It could have been far worse.
Okay.
But these valves are like $100, $300. They're not a lot of money. And, you know, it's just putting it in the pipe. So if you can access where the pipe is, the sewer pipe coming in from the street, you hire a plumber. I don't know, you know, the hardest part probably is the excavation. I don't know if that requires two companies, you know, the plumber and excavator, I don't know. But once you expose the pipe, it's fairly easy to cut into it and add this backflow valve.
Mhm.
And, you know, we can go with the Cadillac, man, and
But-
spend the $300, whatever it is.
I'm naive at all that stuff, so I'm just wondering, where does the backflow go? Because the mayor said that anything being pushed back into the sewers or gutters or
It
water is
doesn't
illegal.
go, it doesn't come.
Yeah,
Oh,
stops.
it keeps
shut
it
off.
keeps it from
Just-
coming this
Oh,
in this
okay.
direction.
From
Right, we have a
It's-
pipe that leaves out of the
And it
building.
won't burst with all the pressure of with
No,
it
No.
won't because.
I'm kinda naive.
Because
I
it's-
don't know,
bec-
because I'll bet you.
the ongoing pressure is in the main line.
It has to go somewhere. if
It
it's not
has a
coming in.
way out, back up through
I'll
our
bet
It'll go
line.
in the
we have
neighbor's
If
house.
we
orange
block it-
tile here.
See, now that's
If we
illegal.
block it, it won't come
What?
into our line.
I'll bet
That's
you
all
we
it
have
does.
Orangeburg
We're
tile.
not doing anything illegal by pushing it
Our
back.
sewers.
No,
Just
we're
'cause I
not
got
pushing
Well,
it back.
you're covered with
just,
maybe
it's
3
like,
feet or at least
putting
of
up
dirt.
sandbags or something. It's
So,
it's
I
the
don't
pipe
think there's an
equivalent.
issue.
Stops
It's a
it.
gate. It
Floating.
just, if you watch the video he sent, when the water starts to back up, the gate floats up and
That's
shuts, so
all.
then it can't go anywhere.
It's simple
It can't
stuff.
come back into us. It stays in the pipe, and this doesn't open until that water recedes. So it's not. It just keeps it from coming into the basement
not
and
a
costing our
manual
insurance
thing that
$100.
somebody has to
Well,
come in.
no,
Yeah, I think
no,
the
they do
automatic-
have
they
such.
have
mentioned
they
that.
do.
That's
The
not a
manual
But
is called
realize
But we don't
that
have to
there's
do-
a
we don't have to deal
strong
with that.
possibility
But,
that the sewage line in this building is Orangeburg pipe, and everybody's looking at me and nodding. Orangeburg pipe is cardboard that has had creosote painted around it.
How delightful would that
That's-
be, huh?
That is your sewage pipe before 1975.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
75.
you know, it's a discussion to be had with the plumber or plumbers.
Yeah, well, that's
And
the
really-
next thing I wanted to ask you. The Physical Resources Committee could find plumbers who do this, and then give them to Matt so he can contact them for.
I guess commercial plumbers.
Yeah, I see. That's
I'm
just
not
it.
sure.
I don't
I don't know if it's a
and
big
I
deal.
I read your
Jones
and
and
FEMA
Jones,
recommends doing this.
Oh
and
God!
yeah,
If I could
Ooh,
easily,
nice
I'd do it
story.
on my own house.
No, I know.
I think anybody in the village,
Yeah, in the village.
yeah.
ought to
except
do it.
those that live on a hill like you, Jim.
But yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know who does it, and I couldn't figure it out from the video
Yeah.
or the.
Well, I mean, it might just take
one.
one call to a plumber and to tell us
Right, and
to
if you
direct
could
us.
just, I would assume that the people who manufacture this would know who's qualified to put it in, or that kind of a thing. That would be the way I would go about doing it. If I wanted a certain item in my house, I'd go to the manufacturer and find out who's certified in the area to do it.
Yeah.
that would be the, and then, you know, get a group of people who are reasonably local, and then give the list to Matt, and he can,
It's just a
give estimates
backflow
for
valve.
us.
Do you
I know,
have
but the
time
black
from
flo- but
during
Frank
the
is
day to
right.
call a couple places?
Frank is right in that we have no idea what's under the ground.
And
It's a
that's what-
100-year-old building, and this village is lovely, what's sort in,
I can make some calls, but,
Yeah.
around it.
right.
Matt's been in touch with plumbers
Ah.
before, right? You probably have a list of plumbers already that you would.
Yeah, I'm sure we can.
It's just a
So-
backflow valve.
Yeah.
Now,
We got A-bar and,
A-bar.
A-bar.
A-bar,
A-bar's out of
Sam.
business.
yeah, Sam will be,
Yeah,
he's got.
Sam's a good guy.
A-bar's out of business.
The
Irene
only
put them out
problem
of
is
business.
that we
Well,
try
they
to
have-
get
they have
him
to
in
clean
here
up.
for a hot water heater, and he promised to come and he just never came. A-bar would,
Oh,
They
really?
had damage.
Well, they
I
had-
was-
they're
I
in
was
Green
next
Street.
door at Liz's and they.
They're on
Yeah.
Green Street, and they got a lot of damage from
Yeah,
both
well, I would
storms.
hope he's recovered by it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
we-
but
we
if
called
it
him
had
for the
to do
original
with pipes,
problem,
I'm
and he
sure he
said, "We're
fixed
done."
it.
Our equipment was damaged, right?
What's that?
A-bar, when you called him. He was the
Yeah,
first
no, right,
person
he
you
couldn't
called.
come.
He couldn't
He was
come, everything
underwater.
was damaged.
Well, he was
everything
underwater.
Yeah.
It's self-preservation at that point.
Yeah, no, right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll be bailing my house out first, right? Then I'll come help you. But,
Danny said that in regard to these valves, that there's the valve you mentioned, which is it's actually in the pipe, and when the water's flowing the way it's supposed to flow, the thing lies flat. When the water reverses, it pops up. He said a problem is sometimes there's material in that water because it's
Sewage.
Sewer water, right.
Mhm.
and sometimes when it pops up, it doesn't close all the way.
Hmm.
And because of the pressure, you still would get a lot of fluid in
Mhm.
the basement, because that type of valve occasionally will fail because it doesn't close 100%. Closes
But
Well,
it's
surely they have
50%.
some that actually work.
But the
Well,
way
I
the
mean,
one you
come
showed
on,
us was set up, it's also the clean
But
out.
the other thing he said was that you can also have what's called a gate valve. The guy could install it at the same time, which is a mechanical valve. You
Right.
actually have to turn it.
My
And
father-in-law has.
Mhm.
and
And
you-
reliant upon somebody to
well,
close it
no,
when
but
they
you-
know.
What
But
you
if
would
we
do
had
is you'd
both
have
of
the
them?
you'd have the gate valve. You'd have the float valve in the line,
Yeah.
and you have the gate valve as like an emergency situation.
You
But
saying
we
it's a
have, like-
backup?
Yeah.
So
That- yeah.
between the
Good
flows and
advice.
the,
My
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
based on what
for-
happened and the tremendous damage that
Yeah.
if this
Could
was just an old
pay for it.
basement down there, it wouldn't matter that much.
Right.
But so I think we should try to get someone to consider doing both.
Mhm.
I wonder if they could put 2 gate valves in series. Because
Well,
if the
the-
first one fails, the second one would slowly.
Well, the gate
Close
valve
off.
wouldn't fail. It's just
not the
the
gate
But
valve.
valve,
Two-
but that's
two
what you,
float valves.
that's exactly what Jim just said.
You know
The
what?
float valve
It's
is
best
the-
a discussion
check with
to
the
be
plumber.
had with
Yeah.
the plumber. What do we know
Well, that's,
about stuff?
that's why I wanted you
like
to
that.
find plumbers who actually do this,
Yeah.
and then give Matt a list of
I
people to
think any
contact.
plumber does.
Yeah, I don't know,
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking.
Well, Matt, if
So-
you need help
Somebody with excavation.
looking for a plumber,
Mm.
with
Yeah,
your
well, that's just it,
I
it's
mean,
not
and these
just
things
coming
are
in and changing
standard
the
in your-
washers or
in
the
your
fixture in
yachts.
my sink,
In
it's,
my yacht.
I need plumbing
standard.
and, exterior pipes and digging, and
Yes.
it's a bigger job than just indoor changing your faucet, it's a different.
Yes, it is.
Right, so I mean,
Yeah.
the regular guy who shows up at my house to change my kitchen sink may not be the same guy who can dig up my front yard and